You know, I was standing in my living room this morning, coffee in hand, just staring down at the rug.
Okay.
And for some reason, I had this vivid flashback to being 7 years old. You know that game, The Floor is Lava.
Oh, absolutely. I think I spent half my childhood jumping from the sofa to the coffee table.
Exactly. But here's the thing, and this is where my brain went. After going through this stack of industry analysis, I realized that for the people who make that floor,
Ah,
the economic reality right now is pretty much exactly that game. The floor really is lava.
that is a surprisingly accurate analogy. It feels so static when you're just walking on it. But the industry underneath is navigating a chaotic storm,
It's being squeezed from every single direction.
every single one.
And that is our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are peeling back the layers of the global carpet manufacturing sector.
And I know what you might be thinking. Carpet. Really?
Right, we're doing a deep dive on carpet. But stick with us, because
Yeah.
this industry is the perfect bellwether for the wider economy.
It really is. It's a microcosm of everything. Raw material volatility, supply chain fractures, geopolitical standoffs. It's all there.
You don't need to look at the stock market, you just need to look at how a rug gets made.
Yeah. And the sources we have cover everything from raw material price drivers, logistics reports, all the way to strategic adaptation.
And the big picture. It's huge. This isn't just about rugs, it's about the collision of petroleum markets, climate change, and trade wars.
So let's unpack this. Because the first thing we have to understand is what a carpet is actually made of.
Because that's where the trouble starts.
It really is.
I think most of us assume it's just, fabric, thread. But the sources highlight a dependency stat that honestly blew my mind.
Get this. Approximately 75% of global carpet production relies on petroleum-based fibers.
So nylon, polyester, polypropylene.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Which effectively turns carpet manufacturing into a derivative of the oil industry.
That's the key context. When you look at a synthetic carpet, you're basically looking at a highly processed, woven form of crude oil.
It's solid oil on your floor.
So when we see headlines about oil prices spiking, we think about the gas pump.
Or airline tickets, yeah.
We don't think about our hallway runner getting more expensive.
But the manufacturers certainly do. The sources point to a direct, painful link. When the price of a barrel of oil swings, a carpet manufacturer's profit margin can just vanish.
And we're not talking small swings here. The reports mention specific benchmarks like Brent oil. But let's get specific on nylon.
Okay.
There's a term that kept popping up, caprolactam feedstock.
Right. Let's get a little technical, but keep it simple. Caprolactam is the primary raw material for making nylon 6. You can't make the fiber without it.
And the data shows that when crude prices hike, caprolactam costs they skyrocket.
Yeah, we saw instances in the analysis where nylon costs shot up by 18 to 22%
18 to 22%.
within a matter of months.
How does a manufacturer even absorb that?
It's devastating for margins. I mean, imagine your biggest expense item suddenly costing a fifth more than it did last quarter.
And you can't just change the price tag on a roll of carpet that's already in a warehouse, right?
That's the kicker, the latency. You've already agreed on the price with the distributor or the big box store.
So you just eat it.
You eat it. It destroys profitability almost instantly.
But it's not just the market price of oil. This is where it gets really interesting. The sources also talk about trade policy shocks.
Right. It's not just supply and demand, it's politics. This is where the trade wars come into play.
And there was a specific, just jarring example, 145% tariff shock.
On certain polyester yarn categories, yeah.
145%. That isn't a tariff, that's a blockade.
It's effectively the government saying, you cannot buy this anymore.
So think about what that does to your business model.
For decades, the industry relied on certain cost advantages, often from Asian suppliers, to keep polyester cheap. A tariff of that size just completely eradicates that.
So the math just breaks.
The math breaks completely.
Okay.
And you can't plan for a 145% cost increase in your annual budget. There is no contingency fund for that.
Okay, so if I'm a manufacturer, I'm thinking oil is volatile, politics are messy, I'll switch to natural fibers, I'll go with wool.
It's the logical pivot.
Premium, sustainable, safe.
Right. You would think so.
Yeah.
But this is the gotcha moment in the data. The analysis shows that wool is absolutely not a safe haven.
It's facing its own crisis.
A huge one.
Because of the sheep.
Because of the sheep and because of where they live. Wool prices have risen sharply, but not because of oil. It's biology and geography.
Reduced global production, right?
Yeah, constrained sheep populations in the major hubs. We're talking Australia and New Zealand.
I guess I never really thought about constrained sheep populations as a business risk, but of course it is.
It's a classic supply crunch. But here's the fascinating difference. With synthetics, if you pay enough, you can usually get the oil.
It exists somewhere.
It exists. With wool, you're dealing with agricultural cycles. The reports highlight the impact of droughts, rising feeding costs.
So climate change is hitting the floor too.
Directly. If there's a drought in Australia, feed costs go up, farmers might reduce their flocks. And unlike a nylon factory, you can't just turn a valve to get more wool.
Right. Biology takes time.
Exactly. You're waiting on a biological cycle. So the takeaway here is that both sides of the equation, the synthetic side and the natural side, are squeezing manufacturers at the same time.
There is no safe material.
None.
That is the definition of being between a rock and a hard place. Or, I guess, a barrel of oil and a hungry sheep.
A very expensive hungry sheep.
So making this stuff is getting incredibly expensive. But the headache doesn't stop there. We have to talk about the pincer movement.
The logistics, yes.
Because once you make the carpet, you have to move it.
And this is where the physical reality of the product becomes a huge liability. Carpet is heavy. It is bulky.
These massive, awkward rolls.
And the stats here are brutal. A 25% rise in freight costs since 2022.
A quarter increase just to move the product. And you said this hits the industry twice.
It's a double whammy.
Walk me through that.
Okay, so first, you pay those high freight costs to import the raw materials, the polymer chips, the latex backing.
That's all coming in on ships.
Then you process it, make it even heavier and bulkier, and you have to pay again to distribute the finished carpet.
So you're paying the premium coming and going.
And it's not just the cost, it's the reliability. We're seeing container shortages, port backlogs.
Which leads to what the analysis calls the inventory trap.
Oh yeah, this is a nightmare for any CFO.
It sounds like it.
Because supply chains are so unreliable, manufacturers are terrified of running out of stock. If you tell a big developer you can't get carpet for 3 months, you lose the contract.
To avert her.
They carry huge inventories just to hedge against delays.
But that costs money.
It costs a fortune. That is working capital. Actual cash tied up in rolls of carpet sitting in a warehouse.
Doing nothing.
Exactly. Plus storage, insurance. It's money literally sitting on the shelf, eroding your liquidity just in case a ship gets stuck somewhere.
It paralyzes your cash flow. You can't use that money for R&D because it's sitting there as beige Berber.
Precisely. And the geopolitics aren't helping. We mentioned the trade wars, but the Russia-Ukraine conflict, U.S.-China tensions.
They're disrupting the energy markets that power the ships and factories.
And it's forcing companies to try and relocate suppliers to safer regions. You hear terms like nearshoring.
Which sounds great in a boardroom. Let's just move our supply chain.
But on the ground, it's incredibly difficult and expensive and slow. You can't just copy-paste a supply chain built over 20 years.
So let's look at the board. Oil prices spiking nylon costs.
Sheep shortages driving up wool.
Ships costing more to sail, cash trapped in warehouses. It's a perfect storm.
It is. Any one of these would be a difficult year. All of them at once is an existential crisis for some.
But, and this is where it gets interesting, companies aren't just rolling over. The analysis describes some very aggressive adaptation strategies.
This is the pivot, how they fight back. Because they can't just keep raising prices.
Right. Let's talk about that pricing power struggle.
It's very difficult to pass costs on, especially in the low-end, volume-oriented segments.
For an office block or affordable housing.
Exactly. Those buyers are incredibly price-sensitive. But one of the most interesting strategies is vertical integration.
Upstream integration. What does that actually look like?
It basically means if I can't rely on my supplier, I will become the supplier. Companies are starting to bring processes like polymer compounding in-house.
So instead of buying the nylon pellets, they buy the raw ingredients and mix it themselves.
Exactly. It reduces dependency, you capture that margin, and crucially, you have more control.
It's like building a fortress around your production line.
That's a great way to put it. You're insulating yourself.
The other strategy that really stood out was sustainability, but not in the usual way. Here, it's framed as a financial hedge.
This is a key insight. Green initiatives are often dismissed as PR, but here they are a survival strategy.
Because if you shift toward bio-based fibers or recycled polymer resins,
what are you doing economically? You're disconnecting from the oil price.
You're decoupling your costs from the crude oil market.
Precisely. If you're using recycled PET bottles to make carpet, the price of Brent oil matters a lot less to you. You're mining the landfill, not the earth.
So recycling is actually a buffer against geopolitical chaos.
It acts as a stabilizer. It's about de-risking the entire production cycle.
Now, we touched on pricing. You said passing costs on is hard, but the reports mention a shift in how contracts are written. Index-linked pricing.
Yes, this is the end of the fixed price era for many business-to-business contracts. Historically, you'd lock in a price for a year.
And now?
Now manufacturers are moving to flexible contracts, monthly or quarterly adjustments.
So they're saying this carpet costs $10 plus whatever the nylon index says it costs this month.
Exactly. They're building the volatility into the contract. They're sharing the risk with the buyer because they can no longer absorb it all themselves.
That seems fair, but it also seems like it makes budgeting a nightmare for the buyers.
It does. It pushes the uncertainty down the chain, but it allows the manufacturer to survive.
It's a move from a model of stability to a model of agility.
That's the only way to survive. Resilience really is the word of the day. It's not about efficiency anymore. It's about the ability to take a punch.
So let's recap this perfect storm. We've got the petroleum tether jerking the price of nylon around.
We've got a biological crisis in the wool market with sheep shortages.
We've got a logistics nightmare with freight costs up 25% and cash trapped on the shelves.
And a geopolitical landscape forcing a complete rewiring of how materials are sourced.
It really does make you look at the floor differently.
It should. That carpet under your feet is a massive, complex, global effort to stabilize a chaotic supply chain.
And that leads me to a final thought. We talked about index-linked pricing for B2B contracts, but if this volatility is the new normal, what about the consumer side?
How so?
Well, we're used to fixed prices for stuff like this.
Yeah.
Go to the store, a rug is a rug. But could we see the end of fixed pricing for everyday goods?
That is a provocative question.
Could we eventually see dynamic pricing for home renovation, like Uber surge pricing, but for your living room?
Sorry, the price of carpet just went up 10% because oil spiked this morning.
It's not impossible. If the buffers disappear, the consumer eventually feels the raw volatility. We've seen it with lumber, with eggs. Why not carpet?
Wow.
The retailer might eventually pass that risk to the homeowner in real time.
It's a wild thought. You might have to day trade your home renovation. Buy the carpet on Tuesday. Oil is down.
Wait for the sheep shear report before you redo the bedroom. It sounds funny, but economically, we are sort of drifting in that direction.
Something to mull over next time you're shopping for a rug. It's a wild world down there on the floor.
Indeed it is.